Hey there, and welcome to our next module in this pronunciation course for native Arabic speakers. I am so excited to dive into this module with you all because this is a testament to just how important other parts of language are when we are speaking. We talk in this course a lot about phonetics, or the sort of science behind how we make specific sounds in our mouth using different muscles. And that's a really important part to clarity and pronunciation confidence. However, there's also another aspect to speech, which we call prosody, that has to do with other things that are not so specific in terms of specific sounds, okay? So we're going to talk about some different aspects of speech. So I invite you to open up your mind to other ways that we use speech when we're going through this module about prosody, and to think about and compare how these things are in English, in American English, versus how you would naturally use them in Arabic. It's really important to make this comparison to understand where the tendencies are, where the differences lie, and how we can identify our weaknesses to grow as efficiently as possible moving forward. So welcome to the first part of this prosody module. For video number 1, we are going to be talking about a really important aspect of prosody, and this is stress. Now we're going to talk about a couple of different aspects regarding American prosody throughout this module. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about rhythm. We're going to talk about intonation. So this one is specifically about stress. And stress is like emphasis, okay? That's what I want you to think of. Stress is emphasis when we are talking about it in language. And we're going to talk about how we stress things and why, all right? So in this video, in this lesson, we are going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about what is word stress so that you can understand how to use it and how you naturally use it on your own. We're going to learn how to stress a word when we want to. And we're going to learn the structure behind which words to stress. How do I know which words I want to emphasize in a sentence? Or are they all the same? Hint, hint, they are not all the same. And why it's important. So why does it matter to stress different words? Okay, that's also an important factor. So what is stress? Stress is something that we use constantly within individual words to talk about syllables, okay? So for example, if I have a list of individual words, or I'm saying individual words while I speak, in each word, especially words that have more than one syllable, then we are going to choose one syllable that's more important or that has more emphasis. So if you're not familiar with the term syllable, let's backtrack and talk about that. So a syllable is a unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound. So when we break up words, and you see this like when you look in a dictionary, you'll see different sort of hyphens or separation of a word in different parts. And that's breaking it down into its syllables. And that's important because when we have a word that has more than one syllable, then it's important to identify which is the most important one, because that's the one that we stress. And if we mistake that stress, then the word may sound confusing, it may lack clarity, or it may just not sound like a word that we recognize at all, okay? So syllables are these individual units of pronunciation having one vowel sound. So let's look at some examples of word stress. If we have these words, we'll start with the top row here. If we have these words, station, sophisticated, campus, there are going to be certain parts of the word that are going to be stressed. So for example, station is going to have 2 syllables. Station, station. So here, the first syllable is with the first vowel sound, stay, shun, which has the un in the second half, okay? Station, 2 syllables. And then we have the next word, it's even longer. Sophisticated. So we have a lot more syllables because we have a lot more vowel sounds. So, fi, sti, k, tid. So we have 5 syllables in this word, sophisticated. But we have to know which syllable is most important. And we're going to do the same thing with all of these words, with campus, victory, American, careful. Okay? So we want to find the most important one. I want you, for the word station, to play with your emphasis. Okay? Emphasis, stress. So which part of the word are we giving more value to? Which one sounds more natural? To say station or station? You will have heard at this point, with the level that you already have in English, which is really great, then you should know for the majority of words that you hear, which sounds more natural. Do we say victory or do we say victory? Do we say American or do we say American or American? Which one sounds more natural? American. So you're going to know which one sounds more natural. And you're using it most of the time, even if you're not aware of that. But we want to heighten or increase our awareness of how we use stress so that we understand how to use it better in a sentence, okay? So right now we're building like the foundation or the building blocks of the idea so that in a sentence you understand how to use it better moving forward, okay? So if we have to choose out the syllable that's most important in each one of these words, in station, stay, station. I don't say station, I say station, station. Victory, sophisticated. I don't say sophisticated. I don't say sophisticated. I say sophisticated. So the fit is the stress. American, careful, campus. Okay, so we are always finding the most important syllable. You're doing this really naturally, but we want to understand it, okay? So, syllable stress within a word shows us the most important part of the word. And this is going to help us moving forward with the clarity of our message. So if we change the syllable stress, my message will not be as clear and it may sound confusing. If I say, for example, the word confusing, and instead of saying confusing, I say confusing, it might take someone a second to understand the word I'm trying to say because they are expecting me to stress a different syllable, okay? You use syllable stress as well in your native language, right? There will be words where certain syllables or certain parts of the word are more important to stress than others, okay? So we just want to understand this system in English. And we're not going to go into more depth on how to identify the most important stress syllables within a word here, because really what I think is most important for you moving forward is going to be the stress within a sentence, okay? So we're just putting this in like micro terms, so like smaller terms, so that then we can move forward into bigger examples, all right? So to stress a syllable in a word, what are we actually doing? So this is something you're probably doing naturally, but how do we do it? We want to understand what we're doing. We're actually going a little louder when we say a syllable that is stressed. We're holding it out just a little bit longer, and we're going a little higher in pitch. So pitch, we're going to go into pitch in the third part of this module in much greater detail. But for now, pitch is like where we go higher in tone. You can think of the musical note of your voice, right? You can be on a low tone or you can be on a high tone. And you don't need to change your volume or how loud you are for that to happen. So we're going louder, longer, and higher in pitch when we stress a syllable in a word. Okay, so for example, if we look at these examples from before, the word station, when I say stay, stay, station, station. So you hear, your ear is sort of like attracted to or it hears more the stay than the shun, because the shun goes really quick. While the stay, I hold it out a bit more. Station. And you can hear a pitch change. So station, station, okay? It may have seemed a little bit subtle or not obvious to you before, but this is what you're actually doing when you stress a syllable. So, again, I had the examples again right here. So the same thing with other words like American. You can feel that I'm holding out the meh a little bit more. American. And I go up in pitch. Careful. Sophisticated. So that's what we're doing within individual words. So how does this tie into the bigger picture that I want to show you guys? So just like syllable stress is important within individual words, word stress is equally as important within an entire sentence. I'm going to repeat that again because this is really important. So just like a syllable, the stress of a syllable is very important within an individual word, word stress is equally important within sentences. So what does this mean? This means that in a sentence, we are going to have certain words in general that are more important than other words. So this is the stress system of English. And this really is the key to speaking faster and more naturally and still sounding clear, okay? So American speakers or high-level English speakers are able to speak super quickly, but we still sound clear. And how is that? Well, there are certain patterns of word stress and sentence stress that we are following. Even if native speakers do it unconsciously, they are doing it. And I'm showing you this pattern so that you can replicate and imitate it easier on your own. Because there's actually like a science behind it, but that's not something that we are normally taught or aware of. So I'm just making you aware. So let's take some examples of really short, simple sentences. And I want you to say these sentences with me. The first one, I can help. I can help. The second one, you're the best. You're the best. The third one, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so these are really simple, basic sentences. They probably felt really easy for you. And I want you to become aware that when you said these sentences, you were probably stressing a certain word. So these are the words that within a sentence or within these small sentences are the most important. So we see that in I can help, the stressed or more important word where we go longer, louder, and higher in pitch is help. I can help. I can help. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. So going up, louder, longer, higher in pitch for best. And it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So louder, longer, and higher in pitch. Okay? So how do you know which word to stress? Even in these basic examples, we had multiple words. Okay? So how do I know which one is most important? That's what we're going to answer now. So we have to know what is the most important part to stress. And in English in general, we always want to stress. Remember, stress is emphasis. So we always want to emphasize or stress the most important parts of our message. Okay, I'll repeat that. In English, we always want to stress the most important parts of our message. So what's my message? What's the most important part? That's something we have to identify next. So to know what's important words are going to be stressed, emphasized. Remember, that means louder, longer, and higher in pitch. That's something that is stressed. And then unimportant words are unstressed. They are not as important. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to unstress a word. But for right now, we're just worrying about the stress, okay? That's going to be the focus of this video. So only focus on the stress right now. So the important words are going to be stressed, longer, louder, and higher in pitch. And to do this, we are going to categorize words in two different ways. All right. So I'm going to show you how we categorize these words to know which words are more important. So these two categories of words are called content words and function words. So content words are words that hold meaning. They hold a message if we hear them on their own. So these would be nouns, like if I say a person, place, or thing. So a table, microphone, water. These are all nouns. For verbs, main verbs, walk, sit, drink. And with all of these, you have like a mental image. You can think of something when I say just one word. That's the important part. That's what makes them content. That's what makes them emphasized, because they're sharing an important part of our message. Adjectives. If I say blue, 5, smelly. Okay, you have an idea in your head. Adverbs. Slowly, quickly, playfully. They all give you ideas. And we also really emphasize any negative contractions. So wouldn't, can't, doesn't, or negative elements in general. So when I say that something is not important, or no, I don't want to go, those negative elements are also considered content or an important part of the message. Okay. And then function words are the opposite of that. These are words that are not as important, because if we hear them by themselves, they don't mean anything. We don't have like an idea of what that is. So these could be articles, like the words the, and. So if I just say the, you don't have any idea what I'm talking about. If I just say you don't know what I'm referring to. Same thing with pronouns. If I say she, okay, who is she? I don't know her name. If I say he without context, I don't know his name. You know who I am if I say I, but it doesn't give us context more than that. Like okay, what about you? We don't have any meaning. Auxiliary verbs. So this is more of a complex term, but you've probably heard it in English grammar classes before. We're not going to go into depth here on auxiliary verbs, because we will talk about function words more in the second video of this module. Prepositions. So words like for, on, off, above, about, around. So by themselves, they don't really mean anything unless we talk about what is on something or what is above something. We need a noun to go with it. And then the verb to be is also something that's normally not considered to be too important, because the verb to be is often a verb that we use for grammar purposes. Okay, so we're going to see more examples of this in the next video. For right now, I want you to stick with content words, that they are more important. They have the main part of the message, so they are the stress. Whereas function words are less important. They do not have a main message on their own. They do not carry weight or meaning on their own. Okay, so we don't want to emphasize function words as much. But content words, yes. So we're going to dive deeper and clarify a bit more about content words. So content words, like I said, are basically any word that gives you a mental image, whereas function words are any words or any word that by itself does not hold any meaning. Okay, so that's how we break up these categories. So let's look again at these sentences that we had before. I can help, you're the best, it's all good. So we see that the word we emphasized, help, okay, that's the main verb, help. I know what help means. If I just say can, okay, can, you can do what, right? Can is always linked with another thing, like what can you do? So help is the one that shares the message. You're the best. Okay, best. Oh, all right, that's an adjective. You're the best at something. It's all good. Okay, another adjective, good versus bad, that gives me an image if things are okay or not okay. So that's the main meaning. So that's why in these sentences, we stress or emphasize the words help, best, and good. So those are really basic examples, right? So you're probably like, okay, Kayla, thank you for the basic examples, but now what do I do if I have a really long sentence or a paragraph or a page to read and there's a lot of words and they all look important? What do I do? So if we have more than one content word or a lot of words that are sharing message and meaning, there is also a structure behind that. So when we have more than one content word, they all remain important in the sense that for all of those content words, they're going to be a little louder, a little higher in pitch, and a little longer. You'll find that there's lots of examples where you are doing this naturally. But we have one word that is going to be more important. And this is going to be called the focus word because it is, you guessed it, the focus of the sentence. So out of all of the content words, they will all be important, but there will be one content word that is most important, okay? And while all of the content words will still be stressed, higher in pitch, volume, and a little bit longer, the focus word will be the most stressed. You'll see even in this sentence that I just said, I'm going to read this sentence again. All of the content words will be stressed, but the focus word will be the most stressed. So you see that in the sentence, you can see it by the way I wrote it, but you could also hear by the way I said it that I emphasized out of all of these words, most was the most important. Okay? So that's what the focus word is. It's the word that is given the most value out of all of the content words in a sentence. So how do we find the focus word? Let's see some more examples to find where our focus word is. So read these sentences off with me. The first one, the girls have been playing basketball. The girls have been playing basketball. Okay, so I've identified already for us what the content words are. Remember, content words, we're looking for nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Those are the main things, or negative elements. So like no, don't, wouldn't, okay? So again, the girls have been playing basketball. We have three content words, girls, playing, and basketball. So I want you to try and stress each word differently and see which one sounds the most natural. Do you say the girls have been playing basketball? Do you say the girls have been playing basketball? Or do you say the girls have been playing basketball? Which one sounds and feels most natural to you? Say it again to yourself. Right. The girls have been playing basketball. The girls have been playing basketball. So basketball is the most important there. All right. We're going to try with the second example, see what we find. He had 5 sales calls today. Practice with me. He had 5 sales calls today. And we're going to play with it. Okay, we have 4 content words. 5 sales calls today. So do I say he had 5 sales calls today? He had 5 sales calls today. He had 5 sales calls today. Or he had 5 sales calls today. Today. Okay, so today is the most important. He had 5 sales calls today. He had 5 sales calls today. Today is most important. The third example, why don't we go to my house? Why don't we go to my house? Why don't we go to my house? Okay, so don't, go, and house are our content words. Now, do I say, why don't we go to my house? Why don't we go to my house? Or why don't we go to my house? Why don't we go to my house? So again, house sounds the most important. So I'm seeing a pattern here, okay? And I hope you guys are too, that this last word seems to be the most important. So what's the rule? The rule that we're seeing is that out of all of these content words, it's the last content word that is most important, or the focus of the sentence, okay? So that's what we're looking at here, that out of all of the words that we have, when we have a lot of content words, the most important content word will be the last content word of a sentence, Okay, so I can have 10 content words in a sentence, but as a general norm, as a general rule, the most important one will be the last content word. Okay, that's the most natural speech pattern regarding stress that you will hear from American speakers. If someone changes this stress, because speech is dynamic and we can play with language in a lot of fun and different ways. So if this changes, right, if someone stresses a different word, it's because they want to focus on a different part of a sentence. So for example, if I want to say the sentence, he had 5 sales calls today, and instead of focusing on today, you hear me focus on 5. And I say, he had 5 sales calls today. How's that going to change the meaning? He had 5 sales calls today. Okay, I'm putting the emphasis on 5. That would be because, wow, 5 seems like a big number, or like, I'm really excited about the number that he had 5 sales calls. Like, wow, that's a big number. So I'm changing the stress of, okay, today this happened. I'm changing it to the number because that's what's most important for me. So people will play with language that way too. But in general, when you're listening to speech and hearing people speak, this will be the tendency that you hear, is that the last content word in a sentence will be the focus. It'll be the most stressed or emphasized. Okay? So here are some steps to identify stress patterns if you want to identify them yourself. Okay? So when we're practicing identifying stress patterns, these are the steps that we're going to go through. We're going to first identify the content words. So what are our nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, or negative elements, like saying no or having negative contractions? That's what we want to find. We'll identify then the function words, and we'll learn what to do with the function words later, okay? But for right now, just circle them because we know that right now we don't have to focus on them. They're not important. But the content words, they do need to be stressed. And then we're going to identify the focus word. So in the sentence, what is the most important word or the most stressed, emphasized word that someone uses? Is it, in the last example, why don't we go to my house? Are they stressing don't? Are they stressing go? Are they stressing house? So you're going to start training your ear to listen to what is being emphasized so that then you can know what you want to emphasize better. Okay? So now it's time to practice. All right? And I want you to really take this practice seriously because this is important for a reason. All right? So the reason why stress is important is because this is a really important aspect of speech that public speakers and great communicators use very naturally. And this is something that some native speakers of English are very good at, and other native speakers maybe do not control it as well. So I recommend when you're practicing and imitating, find people or examples of others who speak that you really like the way they communicate, right? So this could be like a public speaker, someone like Barack Obama, who has great speech giving skills. Or maybe it could be a famous artist that you really like to listen to. Could be Drake or Beyonce, or it could be your favorite actress or actor. Maybe you really like listening to Jennifer Aniston. Maybe you really like her voice and you want to imitate her patterns of stress, okay? So it's really important to use these things to be a good communicator. And this is something that when people are getting coaching in public speaking or learning how to not sound monotone and talk like this and talk like a robot the whole time, we don't want to talk like a robot. Our voice is naturally emphasizing the words that are most important. And you can hear this da 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 when someone speaks, this pattern, because we are choosing words to stress. Okay? So going forward, a really important aspect to start to pay attention to. There are a lot of things that you probably already have been imitating or have adapted, taken on to your own manner of speech, but maybe there are times where you're not controlling this very well. So if you don't feel very comfortable in like your speech giving abilities or speaking in public, this is something you can really focus on to know which parts of the sentence you want to emphasize when you're speaking. Okay, so now it's time to put this into practice. Go ahead and work on your practice sheet and follow the guidelines that I gave you to practice so that you can start identifying stress easier and start to train your ear. Okay, great. I will see you in the next video.